Hey folks, welcome back to the Portable Gamer, welcome back to American Truck Simulator, and welcome to a random truck stop halfway between Pendleton and Ontario. I love this game, man. I love it. They've got the service area is like out in the middle of nowhere. It's fantastic. I love it. Let's get a job going. And we are not on an owned trailer right now. We are free and easy, baby. But I think as soon as we sort of, I don't want to say finish up. Oh, we can't pick up a job from Ontario yet because we haven't discovered it. Son of a... So we're going to need to drive back to Pendleton. Do we want to drive to Pendleton and find something going to Ontario? We can take some wood shavings and we'll be able to do doubles, which I think suits this truck well. 3 hours and 39 minutes. Can we get to Pendleton in 3 hours and 39 minutes? Let's take a look at our map. 2 hours and 34 minutes, but we gotta make tracks, yo. We gotta get a move on. Okay. So brake is off, brake is on. Brake is on. Okay. So brake is off. We just slept. We've got plenty of fuel. Let's do it, man. Let's get on up to Pendleton, and then we'll go to Ontario. And I think at that point, we've discovered just about every city in the Oregon DLC. I have to say, I'm really pleased with it. I have no complaints about it, and I think they did a good job with it. I think it's very atmospheric. I think it really captures the look and feel of Oregon well, as far as like what I know about it. You know, the time that I've spent there. I think it works great. I think it's a great model the way they do it. And I'm not, believe me, I'm no SCS fanboy. I like the products that they make. I enjoy them. But I don't, I'm not one of those people. You know, it's just, it's a game and I enjoy it, but I'm not going to, you know, argue with you about it or battle or anything. So when I say good things about a sim, about any sim, that's just an opinion. That's not coming from emotion. That's just an opinion. I mean, obviously it's subjective because it's a person who's saying it. But I'm not, you know, like if you tell me you don't like American Truck Simulator, the first thing I'm going to say is not, well, you're an idiot. It's the greatest sim ever. My question is going to be, oh yeah? What don't you like about it? And then we'll, you know, compare notes or whatever. But I don't get it, man. People that are like super dogmatic about stuff that, I wouldn't say that it's not important. I mean, it's not important. It's a video game. It's something I'm into, you know. But if I had a choice between playing video games or spending time with real people in the real world, like if it came down to one of those two, sorry, man, it's going to be people every time. If I had a choice between video games and, you know, going out to dinner and having a glass of wine, sorry, you know, it's just not, I don't want to say it's not that important. It's important to me because it can be. But if I ever had to choose, it would not be that important. It's never going to be as important as people. So when I hear people getting like super, super fired up about video games, and honestly, that typically happens online, right? That typically happens in the consequence-free environment of the internet where you can be any kind of a belligerent a-hole you want, and there's really no blowback. You know, nothing's going to happen to you. Nothing bad is going to come your way. So I feel like people have, on the internet, people have the liberty to maybe be a little bit more outrageous than they would be in real life when it comes to things like, you know, their opinion of something, or, you know how people get online. Anyway, so, but that does sort of lead into another topic, and this is a perfect time to talk about it. Let me try to stay in my lane here. This is a perfect time to talk about it. But I was thinking the other day, and I even said this in a video the other day, I said, what if I stopped right now? What if I didn't buy any new sims? Because all the sims that I have right now run pretty well on my 1050 gaming laptop. And I got to thinking about that. You know, I really did, because the Assetto Corsa Competizione, now it's not been optimized yet, but it's a little, you know, I'm hitting like 20, 25 FPS on my system. Just doing hot laps with a single car. And it's like, when we throw in a whole field of cars, how are we going to do? And I've heard other people say the same thing, that it's a pretty graphically intensive game. But we have to expect that as gamers, because games are always going to be pushing the capability of our video cards to render them. And then we get a new card and all our games play awesome, but then new games come out that tax our card, and then we have to get a new card. And it's just, we're just chasing the dragon. So I thought, what if I was a good Buddhist and I just stopped buying new games? What if I just played the Sims that I have, right? Because you think about it, like ATS is a few years old, ETS is a few years old, Farm Sim is a few years old. Some of my race sims are like 5 and 6 and 10 years old, and they look good, you know? I love them. So do I always need to be on that latest and greatest tip, or can I just enjoy what I have? And then that led me to think further, like, what if I had to pick one sim only, right? Like, how would I get down like that? And so I looked at my Steam library, and I thought, let's do this. Next time I'm in a truck video where we've got an opportunity to kind of think out loud as we're driving, let's do this. So we're going to do that today. And when the next opportunity we have to stop, I actually have my oh, I'm such a nerd. I took a picture of my Steam library with my phone because I was like, let's do these in order, you know, so I don't forget one. So when we get stopped, we'll do that, and yeah, we'll go from there. So ATS that we're in right now did patch up again. We're still 1.32 obviously, but we patched up to, it's like 1.32.4.49 or something. I don't know. But they're continuing to tighten things up. I still have not seen a release date for Beyond the Baltic Sea in ETS. And I had debated, you know, I knew ProMods would be out for 1.32 on the ETS side at some point. I had debated waiting until Beyond the Baltic Sea came out and buying that first, getting that up and running stable first on vanilla game, and then bringing in ProMods. Now, I think because ProMods has such a kind of a robust depiction of the Baltic states, which are, you know what they are, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. So they're pretty well represented in ProMods, and not really in base game at all. So I feel like all the Baltic that we're looking at in ProMods now is ProMods. There's really, I mean, is there anything for those areas in base game? I really don't think there is. So it's been kind of a question for me, like, what's going to happen when Beyond the Baltic Sea comes out? Is ProMods 2.31 going to become ProMods 2.32? Did I say that right? I'm going to start the whole sentence again because I think I left out a number. Is ProMods 2.31 going to be incompatible with the Beyond the Baltic Sea DLC, and then we're going to have to wait for ProMods 2.32? You see what I'm saying? Are they going to conflict with each other? But I don't know when Beyond the Baltic Sea is coming out, so I went ahead and just went with ProMods. And it actually got up and running no problem. And I was able to keep my profile. So, super stoked about that. But you know what I'm saying. You know exactly what I'm saying. Like, do we want to wait? Do we want to risk it? I mean, it's, whoa, easy. What is that, a Chevelle? Certainly looks like it. So it's, yeah, it's that sim life, yo. We are, what's today? Today it's Halloween for me. Happy Halloween, by the way. And you're going to see this on probably the 2nd or the 3rd, I think, of November. And by that time, we will be just a few weeks away from Farm Sim 19. And man, I'm so stoked about that. But I'm on the fence, too. I'm on the fence. I have, it's not anxiety. It's not quite anxiety. It's like trepidation. It's like, you know what I mean? It's not quite anxiety. But I'm curious. I'm curious what it's going to look like and how it's going to play. I am fully prepared on both sides of the emotional tipping point. I'm fully prepared on one side that it's going to be like, oh, well, this is pretty much exactly the same. Okay, great. It's got ponies. Fantastic. And then I am prepared on the other side to be just absolutely blown away, like this is a game changer and it's awesome, and I'll never play FS17 again, in the same way that I really didn't play FS15 after 17 came out. And that honestly didn't have a whole lot of changes. What did it bring in? Like pigs, I think? Maybe? I don't know. So, and I suspect it will be somewhere in the middle, realistically. I suspect it will be better. And I feel like the graphics component certainly is going to be tuned up. We've seen the teaser photos and the teaser video. I think that's going to be tuned up. Some of the gameplay features, I have to say, I really don't care either way. Like, I don't care about raising ponies. I'm not really into animals at all. I do it a little bit to, not to break up farming, but to sort of add some structure to farming. Like if I have pigs, I need to grow potatoes and corn. I really don't like growing either one of those crops, but so it goes. Or, you know, sheep, if you can get enough sheep going, that's a nice steady income on a small farm or whatever. I do not like logging. I've logged a few times ever and found it to be disappointing and frustrating every time, so not really much of a logger. So as far as, you know, pony farming, I don't know. I don't know where they get their information as far as, you know, what kind of research they do or testing or, you know, focus groups, or if they just make something that they think is cool. Who knows? So as far as gameplay, I don't know. Equipment, I mean, John Deere is going to be in the game from the developer, and that's cool, but we've had access to so many hundreds, dozens, hundreds of pieces of John Deere equipment, beautiful mods over the past couple of years. You know, are we really missing it? Maybe console players, maybe, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm ready to be thrilled. I'm ready to be disappointed. I'm ready to be somewhere right in the middle. But that is coming up. What else is going on? I think the only other thing that I have dropping in November, as far as what's on my list, is Ride 3. And I'm really curious what they do with that, because I have Ride 2, and it's an arcade game. It's a fun arcade game, but it's not very realistic at all. And because Milestone, that makes Ride 2, is also the company that makes MotoGP 18, which I think is a fairly realistic game. It's got some arcade aspects to it, but for the most part, I think it's fairly realistic. I'm curious if they're going to take some of that realism into Ride 2, because Ride 2, at the moment, it's fun, but it's a little bit, well, we'll get into that in a minute, because that's going to be one of the games on my list for consideration if I had to pick one sim only. Every time I say that, I think of Hunt for Red October. You know it. One sim only. So I'll save my analysis of Ride 2. I'll save my analysis of Ride 2 for as we're working our way through the list when we're driving this gravel back to Ontario. But that's the only other thing that I have on my list. There are some other things. There's a firefighting simulator that is scheduled for release at some point. It's early access. No, it's not even early access. It's pre-early access. So there's that, and there's a sailing simulator called Sail Away that I've heard good things and bad things about, but I'm debating bringing that into the channel. I don't know, though. I feel like we've got enough slow sims. I don't know if we need sailing, you know? That's pretty effing slow. And even when you're in a storm, it's like, okay, you know, what do? You loosen up the main sheet, you know, do something with the jib. I don't know, steady on the helm. It's supposed to be super realistic as far as, like, actual sailing. In fact, some of the comments say it's sort of too realistic in that you need to, like, manipulate all the lines, but you need to do it with the mouse. It doesn't have gamepad or flight stick support, so you need to, like, control everything with the mouse and keyboard, and it can be a handful to, like, control all those lines and, like, tightening things and loosening things and doing it all with the mouse, because apparently it's like, it's so realistic that you can, like, practice sailing in the same way that you can practice flying in Flight Sim or X-Plane or whatever. you can practice sailing in this sim. Like, it's that realistic. And I think, okay. I mean, that's realistic, but it's still, you know what I mean? I don't want to say slow, but it sounds pretty slow to me. And I don't know if I feel like the channel has enough slow already. And I felt like we were picking up some speed with the racing sims. Okay, see what I did there? A little accidental joke. I feel like we were picking up some speed and bringing a little intensity to the channel, but I haven't really done a lot of racing because my wheel has been, it's been here and there, mostly mostly not here. So I've been doing a little bit of race room racing experience, but not a whole lot else. And MotoGP 18. Right, so let's pick up this job. I hope we didn't lose it. And we did not. So let's get a triple trailer. They're going to give it to us? Just a double. And what's the difference between these two? This one has a lot more axles on it. What'd you call me? Oh, man, I said axle. So we will take this. I guess because we're not in Nevada, we can't take the triples. Nevada? Nevada. And let's hop out here, just to be on the safe side. No drama while we're hooking up. Want everything to be smooth, I tell you, smooth. I'm digging this this work body on the back, and I'm digging our service bumper up front. We got a little bit of weirdness going on with the reflection. It's got like some kind of safety panels on there, like marker panels, and they're not showing up a lot. And I feel like it has something to do with the way my graphics settings are rendering. Like, you can barely see them just above the mud flaps on the front. There's some stripy safety panels, but they kind of come and go. And I know sometimes, depending on how you have your reflections set up on this sim, your chrome will be gray, and there'll be all kinds of things going on. So let's hook it up. Landing gear comes up. Airlines, beautiful. We have that little box in there. I think that's classy, man. I think that's a classy look to have the airlines down low like that instead of on a stand. So here's my phone. And let's get, let's go here, and let's go here, and let's go here, and we'll start to work down our list. And this is alphabetical from my Steam library. So we hop in, brake is off, put her in drive. What's our weight, by the way? Okay. And it's wood shavings, it's not gravel. 40,000 pounds. That's not light. It's not heavy, but it's not light. Here we go. So, first on the list, and I think, you know what, let's do this. First on the list is American Truck Sim. And instead of picking one, let's go beauty pageant style. Let's pick 3 finalists, right? And then we'll sort out who's going to be number 1. And you know what, do something else for me right now. If you've made it this far, how far are we in? We're about 18 minutes in. If you've made it this far, and if you feel like it, down in the comments, tell me what your 3 Sims would be if you had to pick 3 from your library. What would your 3 be? Let me know in the comments, because I'm kind of curious myself. But we'll get started on my list. So, at the top of the list, at the top of my Steam library, this isn't my list, but at the top of my Steam library is American Truck Sim. Would that be top 3? I have to say, realistically, no, it would not. And the reason why is the amount of content is not, it's not fully there yet. Oh, that's nice, a little train going by. It's not fully there yet. I feel like we're gonna hook. We're not gonna hook. I feel like it will be. I know it will be. But I feel like at the moment, it's just not there yet as far as compared to ETS, frankly. I wish there were more trucks. I wish there were more DLCs. There will be. There's a rumor of pro mods for North America. It makes me swoon just to think about it. That would be absolutely mental. And I don't even know where they would start because, you know, North America is kind of like, I mean, it's a continent, but the U.S. is kind of a continent too. You got the whole coast-to-coast thing. So someday, you know, but it's not quite there yet. So I think for that reason, ATS would not be on my list. Not yet. So next on my list, next on my Steam library is Assetto Corsa. Old Assetto Corsa. I mean, it's not that old, but it's the original Assetto Corsa. And you know my thing, when I first got Assetto Corsa, I played it a few times, and the graphics really disappointed me, kind of let me down. I thought, I'm not into this. I'll stick with Project Cars. And what I found is there's a way to mod the graphics, reshade. There's a weather mod, there's sound mods, and there's a ton of mod content as far as cars and skins and tracks that really changed the game. And I think it could be a contender. There's just one problem. There's no dynamic day-night cycle. There are mods for night racing, but they're fixed. You start in the dark, you finish in the dark. It does not have a afternoon to evening to dusk to night to dawn to morning cycle. And I really like that. I like turning on the lights, driving in the dark, and then it comes back to daylight and the sun is shining in your eyes as the sun rises. I really like that. And also it doesn't have weather. Now there's some rudimentary weather in the Good Bad Weather suite, but there's not like rain. You know what I mean? There just isn't. So, oh, sorry folks. Oh, he going. Okay. So Assetto Corsa, I have to say, as good as it is, and I love the physics, and I love the game now. Graphics have come along, and we've been able to mod it, and I love it. But still, I don't know if it's going to be top 3. I don't think it's going to be on the podium right now. Next is Assetto Corsa Competizione, and that's early access. It's not done yet. Now, it's going to have weather, and it's going to have day-night, and it's going to have a lot of things that Assetto Corsa did not have that we said, hey, if only it had this. But it's early access, so it can't be on the podium because it's not a full retail release yet. And I'm not being an ass when I say that. I'm not like trying to be a stickler for the rules, but it's not done yet, so I don't know what it's going to be. Can't be on the list if it's not full retail. Next after that is DCS. And DCS is Digital Combat Simulator. It's a flight simulator. Super, super cool. It uses the iRacing model or the Race Room model, where you get the base game for free, and then you decide what you want to buy to put in it as far as planes. It is extremely detailed. It is extremely realistic. Like, takes 15 to 20 minutes to start a plane, and it's going to take you a long time to learn to fly. I like it, but I don't know if it's got the kind of legs that I'm looking for in terms of playability. I know for some people they're all about it, but for me, it's not quite there yet. And mostly and when I say it's not quite there yet, I mean that's me, not the game. The sim has been out for years. But for me, until I get better and more familiar with the P-51 and the Warthog, which are really the only two planes that I want for that sim, until I get better with them, at the moment, that's not on my list. Right. Next is Dirt 4 and Dirt Rally. And I always say those two together, even though they're made by the same company, but they were released a couple of years apart. But I include them, I say them sort of at the same time, because to me they're like two sides of the same coin. I'd like to be over in that right lane, by the way. I know I'm like not being a good truck driver, being out here in the middle. But I think I can get over. I think I can. Yes. There we go. Get in the slow lane, son, if you're going slow. So Dirt 4 and Dirt Rally. Here's the biggest difference between them for me. I feel like even though Dirt 4 is newer, and I think it's got more realistic weather, it's got more realistic physics, and it's got aero effect, allegedly, I still feel like, to me, Dirt Rally is more real. It just feels, something about it just feels more realistic. It's also got 2 more locations. Dirt 4, I mean, and like I was saying before, I mean, people are so hard on games. They're just so demanding and so, like, nasty about them and short-tempered and just, they just rip games to pieces. And I saw some people saying, you know, F Dirt 4, man. That game was dead on arrival. And it's like, really? I kind of like it. But one of the complaints is it only has 4 locations. Now, it does have a track generator. So you theoretically got like an infinite number of stages. But it's only got 4 locations. And that's kind of a, I wouldn't say a deal breaker for me, but that stings a little bit. Of the two, I really prefer Dirt Rally. I particularly like the sort of unforgiving AI model where the better you do, the harder the AI becomes until you can't do well anymore. And just as a sidebar, I'm doing the championships open. I got through no problem. I believe it was 4 stages per location. Clubman, I got through no problem, and I believe that was 6. Professional was 8 stages per location, and I finished that on the podium, which allowed me to advance to Elite. And I got to Elite, and it's like, wow, this is really effing hard, man. This is, holy smokes, this is hard. But I realized, like, thank you, sir. I realized, like, I'm not going to be able to compete. You know, I was losing, like, to the leader, I was losing, like, 15 to 30 seconds per stage. And I realized, like, I'm overdriving the car. I'm pushing too hard. And I'm causing damage. I need to just relax and run my race. And when I did that, I started doing better. My times became more consistent, slightly faster, but much more consistent. And as I watched the AI, they have bad days. They have bad stages in that sim. And you pick up a position, you know, you ran your regular pace, and yet you made up like 1 minute 30 seconds on the car in front of you because they had a mechanical or something. So slow down to go faster, right? Like they say. Nonetheless, Dirt Rally, as much as I love it, not in my top 3. Next after that, Euro Truck Simulator, automatically top 3. Get up there. You are promoted, no doubt it is going to be one of my top 3 and a strong contender for number 1. But we'll get to that another time. But for now, yes, of course. For me, what is not to like about this game? I mean, it is absolutely hypnotic. It's got, you know, the challenges of finding mods and keeping mods running and sorting out mod conflicts. The hunt, the mod hunt, you know, love it. And it's a very soothing, very hypnotic game. And if I can become serious for a minute here, there have been times in my life that have not, I would say, not been ideal. I have not been in the best place. I don't mean geographically. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Within myself. There have been times when things have not been great. And I have to say that this game, more so than any other, for me, has been something that I can do when I'm really not having a good day or a good week. And it's just very, it's very soothing. It's very calming. And it's very, almost reassuring in a way. It really takes me away, man. Takes me away. So yes, top 3 for sure. You're bumped right up there. And next on my list is F1 2017 and F1 2018. Now I'm not enough of an F1 sim racer to count those separately, so we don't need to count F1 2017 at all because that's last year's version of the game. We'll say F1 2018. I love it. Same thing, you know, people rip it apart. They say it's unrealistic. It's an arcade game. I find it to be extremely realistic. I love the racing. I love the sort of limiting nature of the sim. There's one type of car, although you can pick teams, obviously. There's one type of car, and there is a fixed circuit of tracks that you will do in order. End of story, you know? And I think the AI is great. I think the R&D tree is great. I think the added feature of like having to interact with the reporter and develop rivalries and build a reputation with your team, I think that is all fantastic. I love the racing. At 50% length, a race is about 40 minutes, and that's just right for me. That is exactly the right amount of time. I don't mind racing longer, but I don't always want to, I have to say. Sometimes 40 minutes is just about right. 40 minutes to an hour, just about right. Great sim. I love it. Not on my list. Not on my top 3 for the podium. So I'm gonna get my phone going right there before we pull up and get weighed. And next is iRacing. Strong contender. Strong contender. I love the physics. I love the competition where you're racing against other people. And this is going to sound weird, but this one is not going to make the top 3 because it's an online game. You can do, I guess, testing on your own. You can do, time trials. I guess that's still sort of online. But that, to me, that's an online game. And that, I'm not antisocial or anything, but when you play online, really online-only games, that sort of leaves you not at the mercy of other people, but it's, to me, at that point, it's not really your game. It's like the group of you collectively sort of do your thing with that sim, but that's not really yours. So for that reason, and also the fact that there is at the moment no dynamic day-night cycle. Now apparently they're adding it, but at the moment it's not in the game. They're supposed to add weather too, but that's a few years out. I also realized we skipped right from F1 to iRacing, and we skipped Farm Sim because it's not, I don't have that game on Steam. I have a serial number copy. Farm Sim, yes, of course, right up to the podium, which now only leaves us 1 slot, and we're only to the eyes. But Farm Sim, yes, of course. That game also checks all my boxes. It's got a driving aspect to it. It's got a planning and management aspect to it. It's got heavy equipment. It's got great sounds. It's got challenges and frustrations. It's got mods. And like Euro Truck, it is also very soothing. I can remember, again, some bad times in my life and some rough weekends. And I don't mean rough like I drank too much. I mean rough like I really hope I make it through this weekend, because this is not a pleasant time right now. And to be able to go to, was it Bjornholm? I think in FS15, the Scandinavian farm. I just found that place so relaxing and so calming when everything in my life was kind of going crazy, So FS17, the whole Farm Sim series. Yep. They get a podium spot, so we keep working our way down. MotoGP 18. No, I don't think so. It's a fun sim, if you want to call it a sim, either a sim or a game. It's fun. I definitely like it, but as far as being a finalist to be the only sim that I play, no, it's not. It's really not. It's really not. It's fun, but it doesn't have the kind of legs I'm looking for. Next is Project Cars. Oh, strong contender. Now, not the most realistic physics, and this game gets a lot of crap for being just a game and not a sim. I don't see it that way. I think it is very much a sim, although obviously it is not as realistic as other race sims. But I really like it, and it is certainly, without question, the most immersive race sim that I have ever played. I think Assetto Corsa Competizione is going to give it a run for its money, but at the moment, with the rain and the day-night, the graphics, the way things render, the post-processing, strong contender. Really strong contender. Race Room Racing Experience. Fantastic game. Unbelievable collection of cars. Unbelievable collection of tracks. Great AI. Great physics. I really, really love it. But no day-night cycle and no weather at the moment. Maybe later, but for that reason, I can't consider it for a top 3. R Factor 2. It's got everything that Project Cars 2 has, but much better physics. The UI is, to be fair, it's a bit of an enigma. I can't always figure out what the hell's going on, and it's really hard to pick cars to race against when you're racing the AI. It's really hard to get that set up. But, quibbling over details. Great selection of aftermarket mods. There's some licensing issues where, they don't have the Ferrari, they have like the Fendani. But for the most part, great game. Does have weather, does have day-night. AI can be a little aggressive, and they do bump a bit, but once you sort of figure out what not to do around the AI, you can generally work with them. Strong contender. Strong contender for that number 3 spot. Next on the list, Ride 2. No, definitely not. It's a fun game, but it's just a game. It's not really a sim. Next on the list, a somewhat obscure game called Rise of Flight, which is a World War I like wood and paper biplane simulator. No, it's not going to be on the list. It's too... I don't want to say it's too hard. It's too finicky. Maybe that's a good way to say it. It's a sim that's fun, but not in an enjoyable way, if that makes sense. It's mostly just challenging. There's not a lot of reward in Rise of Flight United, I've found. It's a very frustrating sim to play. It's very challenging, and I feel like it almost needs VR. I've used it with eye tracking, and that helps a lot. But there's ain't no radar in a paper plane, so you really need to have your head on a swivel, and it can be challenging in a way that is really not enjoyable. You really need to be in the mood for it. So that's not on my list. Whoa, 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 whoa. Next down is Spin Tires and Spin Tires Mud Runner. I think at this point we should just consider Spin Tires Mud Runner. I don't think Spin Tires... I mean, Spin Tires Mud Runner is a sequel. It was sort of released as a parallel game. It was... Sometimes that helps, maybe? I don't know. It was sort of released as a parallel game, but I feel like it's not a parallel game. I feel like it's a sequel. We're going to give it another second here, and then we're going around them on the right. Yeah. Okay. Let's get backed up just a little bit. I know. I see you back there, buddy. It was released as a... I've seen it called a parallel game, a parallel sim. But I don't see it that way. I see Spin Tires Mud Runner as a direct sequel, and at that point we really don't need Spin Tires anymore, so we'll take that off the list and just consider Spin Tires Mud Runner. Great game. I love it. I love it. I play it. No complaints whatsoever, but I just don't know if it has the kind of depth and playability as something like Farm Sim, and so I have to say that would not be one of my top 3. And next on my list is, or next in my library is Train Sim World. And you know, I think if we didn't have Euro Truck already in our top 3, I think Train Sim World might be a contender. But I find Train Sim World and Euro Truck, and ATS for that matter, I find the gameplay to be really similar in that it's sort of hypnotic, it's sort of relaxing, it's very scenic, it's very pastoral almost, maybe you want to use that word. It's traveling, you know, and it's traveling in sort of a unique way. You know, driving a truck is not like driving a race car. It's, I don't know, man, it's like when you're driving a truck, when you're driving a train, like you get that whole Kerouac vibe going, you know? Like you got your traveling gear with you. You know, and I think that particularly in guys, I'm not excluding women by any means when I say this, but I think a lot of guys have that secret walkabout spirit in them. You know, every guy I know, if they could, they'd go on a little walkabout. I went on a walkabout a few years back. It lasted a year. I just traveled around the country for a year, and that didn't do it. So then I traveled around the world for the year after that, and that it did not do me any favors financially and as far as jobs and stuff. But I'm glad I did it. It was really an important event in my life. And when I think about the ways that I traveled during that year, particularly traveling at night, I think, you know, we do have sort of a restless spirit, some of us, most of us, I think. And trucks and trains touch that somehow. So I think Train Sim World, if I wasn't into ETS, I think Train Sim World would be a strong contender for that top 3. But because we already have ETS and because I'm so sort of like bonded to this game, I think Train Sim World doesn't make the top 3. And then the last one in my Steam library is WRC7, which I think is a fantastic game. It didn't get good reviews. People give it a lot of crap. I think it's a great game. It can seem a little cartoony, which surprises me because it's like the official sim of WRC, and you know, FIA sanctions it and everything. So I would think that it would be like hyper realistic, but who knows what people's goals are, you know? Maybe they don't want to make a hyper realistic game. And when I think of F1 2018 and really all the Codemaster F1 games, I think those games are pretty effing realistic, like almost too much so sometimes. And then I realized like not every company is looking for that for their brand. You know, if somebody just wants to make a fun rally game to draw people to their brand, good for them, man. It doesn't have to be, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be like the mental torture that F1 2018 is when you turn off all the assists, as I do, and I torture myself. Not everybody wants to do that. Some people just want to have a good time. So WRC7 is fun. It's not terribly realistic, and the graphics, I have to say, can be a little hit or miss. So that is not on my list. And I think, wow, I can't believe the timing on this worked out, and I swear I did not do this. You know, I just like, I fire up the game capture software and I just start running my mouth. You know how I do. I can't believe the timing on this. Number 1 is going to be Euro Truck. Number 2 is going to be Farm Sim. And number 3, I have to say, is Project Cars 2. I understand it's not the most realistic, but I think the selection of cars, the selection of tracks, the weather, day-night, and the immersion that makes it okay for me to deal with, you know, physics that are maybe not quite as brutal and realistic as something like R Factor 2 or Race Room or iRacing. So that's my list. And now next week maybe try to pick, if I had to pick one, if I was going to prison and they were like, you can take one video game in with you, you know, what would I pick? So for now, those are my top 3. Let me know what your top 3 are. I'm curious. I really am. And we're going to get in here. We got tandem on, so it should be a pull-through. If we can find it. Let's take a look up here. You know what I tell myself? I say we sent the boy out. The spotter. There it is. We sent our spotter ahead with the radio. We said, go talk to the yard man, go talk to the dispatcher, see where he wants this thing. So our helper went and did that. Let's see if we can get this in here in one swing, because if we can't, you know, I am crap at backing up. Well, lately I'm crap at backing up at all, but I'm definitely not good backing up dolly trailers. So hopefully we get this in one swing. Creep it in here. Creep it in here. Creep, I said. Creep it in here. Does it give it? Yes, fantastic. Put it in neutral. Set the brake. Lights off. You know, it's getting to be evening. I'm going to leave the parking lights on, as we do. Beautiful. I'm loving this truck, man. I'm so glad I got it working. So glad. And we unload. Let's see how we did. Fantastic. Only 10 grand. We didn't take it that far, but we discovered a couple more places. We're going to finish off Oregon DLC next week, and I suppose we'll start heading south after that. And there we go. Folks, thanks for stopping back to check out The Portable Gamer. Thanks for joining us for another episode of American Truck Simulator. And we'll see you next time. Take care now.